So I watch a lot of old Hollywood videos on YouTube. I'm really like, I find them to be very, very interesting. And I don't know what got me into Marvin Gaye's, like trying to find out about his life and from different perspectives. But I really love his music. I think he's very talented. I think he's a musical genius. And so I ended up finding this book written by his wife, his ex-wife Janice. And this book had me like, oh my goodness. I did not put it down for a week straight. And I finished it so quick because it was so good. So I'm gonna do this in the style of Aaliyah J. She tells stories about fashion designers, like their life story, and she does it in like a get ready with me form. So I'm kind of inspired by that, and that's how I would do this video. So stick around if y'all want to hear the tea of this wild, crazy life of Mr. Marvin Gaye. Poor man. I have not recorded on this camera in so long. But, okay. Let's get into it. So, this is a book. I don't know if I'm going to do my nails on camera or not. But, just in case I don't, these are the nails that I'm going to do. And if you go back on my channel, I have plenty of nail videos. I love press-ons. I've been wearing them for a few years now. And Marvin Gaye, we know, was very, very talented. I know I did not grow up in the time period that he was like really popular. He was more so of my grandmother's time. But I really appreciate his music, y'all. Like, really appreciate his music. He's still on my, I have like a little playlist, and he's in that playlist. I definitely think he was definitely a musical genius. But his story kind of feeds into my theory that musical geniuses, or just geniuses in total, they are kind of twisted, you know, like mentally. They are very, very different mentally. And it may be because they are such geniuses. So he just added on to my theory. He reminds me a lot of R. Kelly. And I even have a video on here about a book that I read about R. Kelly from his tour manager. And I don't want to say it's very similar to Marvin Gaye, but I did see some similarities in their stories. Now, mind you, this book is written from his ex-wife's, well, yeah, I guess you could still say ex. No, yeah, they were divorced when he died. His ex-wife's point of view. Miss Janice was her name. Janice was her name. He nicknamed her Jan. But it was very interesting. So, Jan and Marvin, first off, Jan was so much younger than him. I want to say like he was in his 30s maybe. He was still married to Berry Gordy's sister. When he met Jan, Jan was 16 years old. She was like a big fan of Marvin Gaye at the time. I can't remember what year this was. Probably was like the 70s or something. I don't know. She was a big fan of Marvin. Like, she grew up. She talks about how she remembers seeing him on the TV screen when she was like a child, and she was like just fantasizing on like meeting Marvin Gaye. You know, like when you're a child, when you have like celebrity crushes and stuff. So she was a child when she first used to see him on TV, and she had like a celebrity crush, of course. And so fast forward to 16 years old. Her mom, first off, Jan came from like a real troubled background. She was kind of like in the system, in the foster care system. I want to say it was the foster care system. I know it was another lady who was not related to her, who was raising her, who also abused her. And her mother was like on and off drugs. Her mother was like what we would call nowadays like a hot girl. She was like in the streets. She would come and visit Jan at the lady's house, but she really depended on this lady to raise Jan for her. So and when she would come and get Jan, they would go to like these men in higher places, like houses out in LA, and Jan would be like 14 and they would be there like doing drugs. And it's one scene Jan said she asked her mom, like they were in the pool while the old men were like doing the drugs with her mama and stuff at a party, at a pool party at the house, and Jan like went in the pool and took her bra off, took her top off, and was just like naked walking around these older men. So that kind of gives you insight on her relationship with her mom. That's the type of things that they did together. So fast forward, Jan's mom knows Marvin Gaye. I think it's his engineer or someone who worked around Marvin. And he was, I think his name was Ed. He was always happy to tell them that he knew these celebrities. So one time he was like, I know Marvin. And so Jan was very excited. She was 16 and she was like, oh, I love him. Please let me meet him. And all of that. So fast forward, she ended up meeting Marvin at the studio. She was 16. Her mama was a mother's age. And both of them were kind of like in hopes that Marvin would, like, that they would get Marvin's attention, which was so wild to me. Like, the mama was hoping that when they went to the studio, Marvin would choose her. And of course, Jan was hoping the same thing. Mind you, she's 16. So, long story short, he ends up noticing Jan. Jan says that there was another mother in, oh goodness, my eyebrows, y'all. She says that there was another mother and daughter duo who were in the studio as well, trying to fight for Marvin's attention, but they were doing too much. And so Marvin was, he noticed Jan, and he ends up like talking to her afterwards. She's talking about how she's like going just super excited in her brain, but she's trying to like play it cool. Which is so funny when I think about it as an adult, because I don't care how cool you're trying to play it as a 16-year-old to this grown person who is very much grown. You're not playing it cool. I can only imagine she thought she was so grown and mature, and she probably was definitely looking like a child. Which is okay because she was a child. So, fast forward, they end up going on a date. This is way... I'm killing my eyebrows, like not in a good way. So they end up going on a date. This is like a few weeks later. One thing I would say about them, they moved really fast. Jan and Marvin, they moved so fast. It was almost like crackhead love. You know, that's what my friends and I call it. Cause you know, like crackheads, they be in love like really fast, and they fight and all that type of stuff. So anyway. They end up getting together. Well, going on a date. He orders her a drink, which was very, you know, perverted of him because she's young. First off, for him to be going on this date, it was, yeah, he was definitely in R. Kelly. And on top of that, he was married. So he ordered her these drinks, and they end up going back to her mom's house, and they have... And her mom is in like the next room over. It's crazy. And it's like he kind of like got off on that. Like he wanted to make sure they were at her mom's house. It's so crazy. And she was a really pretty girl too. Like she put some pictures in the book, which I really appreciated. Because I love seeing like the vintage pictures. Look how pretty she was. Look at that. So, and so... I did feel bad for her a lot within the story because she talks about how, you know, she just kind of like lived her life for Marvin. Like she did anything to please him. That was from like, one thing she didn't blame him for though was her drug issue or drug abuse, because she ends up like getting addicted to drugs. But she says like, you know, she was doing drugs before she met him. Mind y'all, I told y'all about like her mom and her relationship with her mom and stuff. So she had been trying like drugs. And what I realized is that back in these days, cocaine and stuff was not abnormal. A lot of people did it, which is so crazy because like I feel like that's a serious drug, but they did it as if it was nothing, like nothing bad basically. Okay, so fast forward, they go on a date, they become intimate. Trying to watch my words because I don't know how YouTube does things, but they become intimate. They end up becoming like in a relationship. Even though, mind you, he's married to Barry Gordy's sister. And during the relationship, oh, he has this apartment that he takes her to, and it's so like unlike a celebrity apartment. Like it's really basic, and that kind of like awes her too because she was expecting to see like, even though she didn't really care for like material things, I don't think she was like this super materialistic female, but I think she thought it was kind of cool that she was kind of surprised that he was such a basic human being when it came to like being a celebrity. So they go to his home. Things kind of go really fast with them. They get into a relationship. He's still married, but he does things like take her to his home with Anna Gordy. And let me throw this in there. Anna Gordy, we need to start talking about how females can be pedophiles too. Anna Gordy, in my eyes, was most definitely a pedophile. You know, she probably was the reason why he thought it was okay to date younger girls or date little girls or whatever. And maybe she was not the reason, but she was definitely a pedophile. If the roles were changed, society would definitely view her. I mean, yeah. Anyway, she was a pedophile because she was like much older than Marvin when they got married. And so she took advantage of him. She got married to an 18-year-old, kind of like Angie Stone. If y'all look into Angie Stone and D'Angelo, same thing. Got married to him young, expecting him to be this man, and he was still definitely a child, or definitely immature mentally. Anyway, so he does things like take Jan to the house, and Jan is very uncomfortable being in the same space as his wife, as she should be, because here's this young girl who is, I don't think she was the cause of their marriage to end, because I think they were already having like marital problems and stuff. But here's this young girl that he's having an affair with popping up at the house with the wife and with him, and you know, I just felt like that was recipe for disaster. But Marvin like did it anyway, and people in his family, according to the book, always, especially his brother, and his brother liked him a lot, but he seemed like he was a realist. He was saying like, you know, Marvin gets off by causing drama. Like a lot of people said he like loved drama. And it seems like it too, because he would kind of like make chaos out of nothing. Like there's stories in the book where he had concerts that he was supposed to go to and fulfill for his record label, and he would do stuff like tell the record label like, okay, I'm gonna do the concert, and then wait and never. Okay, I'm gonna do the concert, and then wait and never show up to the rehearsals, and then wait till the last minute and say I'm not gonna do it, and then wait till the last minute and say okay, I'm gonna do it. Like, it was crazy. And so his brother was like, you don't get about now, Jen, he loves chaos. And mind you, Marvin, along with like his mental issues, and let me also go back to Marvin's childhood, because I really feel like Marvin and Jan had like a trauma bond more than anything, because mind y'all, I told y'all about her childhood and her upbringing, and we all know, well, if you don't know, Marvin had a really terrible childhood as well. His dad was a pastor, and he used to cross dress, which was, I can only imagine, was very confusing for a child. It's also confusing for an adult, because, you know, it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of confusing. He was a pastor. He used to cross-dress in his wife's clothing, walk around the house in her heels, her hair rollers, and he was also physically and verbally abusive to the family members. And one of the family members, I think it was his brother, told Jan that Marvin's dad molested him. But I think Marvin never really wanted to talk about it. And no one actually like confirmed it, but I don't think anyone denied it either. And just from my experience with working with children who have been abused and stuff, he definitely to me had behaviors of a person who was a victim of some type of abuse. And so I do not think that I would not put it past his father to have molested him, or maybe someone else. I don't know. But I definitely think he was a victim of some type of abuse. And I don't think it was just physical abuse. And so, and if y'all don't know, Marvin's dad is the one that shot and killed him. But, so, Jan used to do all these things to make sure she kept Marvin. Like, she said it. Like, during the time she was so young, and she just thought like a fan. She thought like, okay, I got him from being a fan. I need to make sure I'm doing anything he asked me to do so that I won't lose him, because she was really in love with that man. And he used to say he was in love with her too. I'm not sure if he was or if he was not. To me, it kind of sounds like and it's so strange for me to say that because he was so much older than her, but it does seem like, I don't know what I want to say. I don't know if I want to say he was in love with her. It was a big part of me that felt like he was really using her just to have someone to have control over, because he easily manipulated this girl. Easily. And so, yeah, they were doing all these drugs. He would, like, convince her, which she made it seem like it wasn't too difficult to convince her. He would convince her to, like, have all this wild sex with these different couples, and they were doing all these drugs, and you know, just they were doing a lot of wild things together. And I think they had two children together, 2 or 3 children. I think it was 2. And she talks about like how he took her all across the world. But even though they did these things, like go around the world and stuff together, it was definitely a toxic relationship. Like, he got so bad on drugs, and she said she was really bad on drugs too, but they would be like overseas. I think they was in Florida, and he like abused her. Well, he was about to, like he choked her and stuff, and so she left. And they would go through, so they had so many moments where they would break up and then make up, break up and make up, and that was like their relationship. Very toxic, very filled with drugs, and it just sounded like it was very unhealthy for both of them. Yeah, it was crazy. So they ended up, they were married, like I said. They were going on these trips and stuff together. She literally depended on him financially. She did not work. And so when they did break up, she really had nothing to depend on. She was like depending on different men for money, for drugs, things like that. He hated her mother. He hated her mother a lot. I really don't understand why, but he hated her mother. So when they would break up, she would go back and stay with her mom, and she would talk about how her and her mom would do drugs together and stuff. And you would think maybe that's why he hated her, but he did drugs too. So I don't know. I don't know why he disliked the mom so much. So, I feel like I'm missing a really important part. Oh, yeah. So he would always accuse her of cheating on him. It was so weird. Like, he would say stuff like, I bet you find that guy attractive, don't you? And she would be like, no, like, I'm not looking at him. And then he would be like, you sure? Let's go talk to him. So that he would, like, they would walk up to the guy, and to the girl, the guy, and whoever the guy was dating. And Marvin would kind of like push Jan onto, not physically push, but like push her onto whoever the guy was. Like, he is good looking. That's what Marvin would say. He is good looking, and like just try to push Jan onto these guys. It was crazy. He did that with celebrities too, like except for Teddy Pendergrass. He hated Teddy Pendergrass, and she ends up having an affair with him. And she said she didn't get intimate with Rick James, but Marvin thought differently. She even talks about during an award ceremony, I think it was the Grammys, I don't know, that when Marvin finally won an award, Rick James was the one to present him with the award. And I went back and watched a clip of this. She said when Marvin accepted the award, he whispered in Rick's ear, "Just take care of her, man." And if you go back and watch the clip, it's like you can't tell that he said that, but he definitely like whispered in Rick's ear. And so yeah, she had an affair with Teddy Pendergrass. She said she did not with Rick James. Is one more person, the guy, some guy from Earth, Wind and Fire. And so and then it was crazy. They was in Jamaica one time, I think, and he was like pushing her to go on this date with this young guy that was out there in Jamaica. And at first she didn't want to, but then Marvin kept like saying negative things about her body after she had just had a child for him. Like he would say like, "You have stretch marks and I just don't find you attractive, dear." And he talked like darling and dear and stuff like that. And so she started feeling really insecure. And so she started you know, he pushed her to go on a date with this guy that they met. And I think the first time she did not cheat on Marvin when she went on the date with the guy, but I think they were there for a while, and she almost cheated on Marvin. And Marvin would do stuff like pop up at the hotel room that he would book for her. Like, it's crazy. He did that with the Earth, Wind and Fire guy too. He told Jan to pick the Earth, Wind and Fire guy up from the airport, and then he popped up on them at the hotel room, and they were just about to like cheat. Like she was just about to cheat on Marvin with him, but then Marvin popped up and the guy like dropped down and crawled to the next room. So he used to do stuff like that, like set her up to cheat on him, and then like bust in, like hoping that he could be like, aha. But he never like really caught her. But she did end up like coming clean to him. But she would say stuff like, "You don't think I knew what you were doing? Like when you were cheating on me?" Stuff like that. Their relationship just was like really, really toxic. And I'm really summing this up, but because it was a lot of stuff that went on between the two. By the time Marvin, like close to around the time of his death, Jan and Marvin were no longer together. They had broken up. They had gotten a divorce. He was not really he was not responsible with his finances. And so like around the time of his death, he was going through a depression. I watched another video that said he was after his musical partner Tammy Terrell passed, that triggered his depression. But honestly, just from reading the book, I feel like Marvin was always depressed. I feel like if he was receiving therapy of some sort, he probably was diagnosed with like clinical depression or something, just from the way Jan described his behaviors. He also seemed bipolar to me, because he just would have highs and lows, you know. And when he had his highs, he was like going on his drug binges and making all these wild financial decisions. And when he had his lows, he was like staying deep off in the mountains, not in the mountains, somewhere in California, and was like not talking to people, you know. He just had like a really troubled life, and so did she. So their marriage was to me, I feel like was not a good decision. And on top of that, they brought children into this world. She always say that like when they had the children, they would wait until the kids went to sleep to have like their drug binges. But I can only imagine what those kids have witnessed. Oh. Okay, so I can't remember the last part that I was on, but towards the time Marvin died, they were not married. They did have 2 children, I want to say. He had another child from Anna Gordy. And she said she found out through a phone call. She was, of course, devastated because she was still in love with him. And right before he died, even though they were not married, they were kind of like trying to get back together. But like I said, like they had a really toxic relationship. So they were always like breaking up, making up, breaking up, making up. So I want to say they had just like came from a trip together. He had moved overseas right before he moved back to America, and he moved the kids over there. I think the kids enrolled in school and everything. So yeah, y'all, they died. He died. She was really sad. And she said after that she kind of worked on getting clean from her drug addiction. And that was it, you guys. It was a crazy life. It was a crazy, crazy life. Crazy marriage, but it was very interesting. I do feel like it was full of just like passion, I want to say. This is the book. Thank y'all for watching.